I'm Erik. I serve as the board chair for Minorities for Medical Marijuana. We are a national nonprofit and we have chapters in 25 states around the country. And basically we work on 4 different areas: public policy, making sure that as this industry moves forward, we're writing the rules and the laws that allow for minorities to be able to participate. We also work on educating the community, making sure that they understand this as a medicine, but even when it comes to recreational and industrial hemp, making sure they understand the job opportunities that come with it, and just what is happening in this industry overall. So a lot of community education. We also focus on workforce development and business development. So those individuals who say they want to get into this industry, they want to start a business, we're here to help them get off the ground, help them cut through some of that red tape, find good partners, and create sustainable businesses. And then the last thing is social justice and social equity. We want to make sure that as this industry moves forward, that we have a way to make a place for those individuals who've been arrested, people who come from communities that have been overburdened by the war on drugs, getting them into the industry and making sure that the economic benefits that come from this industry also trickle down.
Right. What's the most effective policies at the level?
Most effective policies are not ones that you see very often around the country, if I'm being very honest. You know, one of the things that I would hope that legislators around the country would do more of is taking their, allocating resources towards educating the community. We have to understand that when this became illegal, when prohibition began, it wasn't just that we changed the law. There was also miseducation and propaganda that followed. And so as we're changing laws back and we're ending prohibition, we also have to re-educate and retool folks. And so that means the community, making sure they understand, why we're changing these laws, how these laws impact them on a day-to-day basis.
Do you think it's harder too because minority communities have been so sensitive to the effects of, whether it's stop and frisk or, small misdemeanor amounts, that it seems like minority communities are more hesitant to come out because they've been the victim of this so much. And so you got to work that much harder to reassure them that this is really an inclusive place. Right?
It's a stigma that we have to overcome. One of the things I shared before is that my family, largely was against it, and it's because we know people who have been killed, in drug gang violence. We know people who have been arrested and locked up and incarcerated. We know people who have been persecuted because of the war on drugs. And so you'd be hard pressed to find very many minorities who don't have that similar story. And so it's a stigma now when you say this is medicine, or now when you say, okay, it's legal for adult use and recreational, it's people who are still sitting in jail right now because of this. It's people whose lives lives have been destroyed because of it, and our criminal justice, system has to reform. And in addition to that, we have to retrain and retool. It's not enough to implement a decriminalization law or bill or anything like that if we aren't also going to allocate dollars to retrain and retool our law enforcement officers, so when they're in a traffic stop, they now understand and respect the laws that are on the books, because there's a lot of work that has to be done. So starting with education is important, but social equity programs that give first priority to those individuals who have been locked up or come from communities that have been over-policed, that's important. But those things won't make the industry diverse in and of themselves. We also have to, bring in diversity and inclusion. We have to do workforce development. So
and so that's a question too for us. Like we're here, and like you said, like people who are like the industry, the community, the fun parts detached from the real life consequences, right?
Absolutely.
So what do we do as people here in New England, especially?
Absolutely.
As people in the community to help encourage that, and these goals we all say we want to work towards.
Well, first and foremost, find allies within the communities that you want to exist in. That's the best way, to get involved and gain, I guess, social and political capital in those communities. Work with the individuals who live there, who've been fighting for these communities for a long time. And then the other thing is, when we are starting our businesses, be good stewards of the industry. Recognize that we can, we certainly want to make sure that we right some of the wrongs of the past, but it's not just for that. It's also good business sense. operating, if you're going to set up a lab or something like that, or a manufacturing facility that's going to offer jobs, do that in communities and make it accessible for those same communities.
Right. Have that job fair, as easy as that. Have a job fair in that community.
Absolutely.
Right. That's
Connect
a clear
with those
step.
folks. Go beyond having a diversity and inclusion plan for your own workforce. Have a community engagement plan. How are you going to help and empower and give value to the communities that you actually operate in, beyond just bringing in jobs and having a diverse workforce? So a lot of communities need the education, health fairs that go beyond just what we're doing in the cannabis space, but address the holistic issues. When we're talking about
the medical access too.
Exactly.
Like you said, that's such a big thing.
It's huge. I mean, industrial hemp is a superfood. So incorporating that into farmers markets that bring in fresh vegetables into a food desert. These are the ways that we can help our communities not only address the issues that they're currently dealing with, but also begin to learn more about this plant and make it more of their daily lives, and instead of just this plant that I can go into a dispensary and pick up and get high off of.
Right.
I think the plant itself offers so much more, and so as an industry we should be cognizant of that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, last question, man. What do you think about Western first show out here in Springfield?
Well,
interesting questions.
Yeah, I think the takeaway that I get from Western Mass is that they are hungry, they are interested, they are ready. They recognize that this thing is taking off in their state, and for a long time, I think most of the conferences and the education events have kind of overlooked this side of the state, and so I think they're ready though.